Back in studio, Joe Musso, Bryant, McFadden, Christian Fauria offering their thoughts on the tail end of what was a hard-fought battle there in Philadelphia. I can't take my eyes off of this box score and off of the performance by Saquon Barkley once again. The difference the last time these two met, the difference in this one. 205, 2 touchdowns, and a palpable joy to just be in this moment, Mac. What stood out to you?
Saquon Barkley, his playmaking ability. And the thing about Saquon Barkley, he's one of the more patient runners in the National Football League. And what I mean when I say patient, you can have him bottled up for a quarter or a half, but all he needs is just a little window to turn a 5-yard run into a 50 or 60-yard run with his ability. And that's what we saw today, because if you look at outside of those two big runs, they did a pretty good job in trying to keep Saquon bottled up. But you have to do that for 4 quarters, and that's a tall task to ask of any defense, especially when you look at the offensive line that he has the luxury of running behind. Number 26 has been unbelievable this season, and they go as Saquon Barkley goes. He is the most valuable piece to their offense. I won't say important because we know how important the quarterback position is, but in terms of value, what he means for their team is unbelievable, and it's great to see them stick with the running game as well, Joe.
Mac, we saw it. And we said it last time these two met. If you don't give up those 2 home runs, it's just 100 yards from Barkley.
The same storyline.
Well, you give up another home run, and there goes your season.
Same storyline.
Christian, you look at Saquon's performance, the luxury that is for an offense. It's hard to put into words.
I mean, it is, but I'm going to try.
Please.
Because, you know, when you start the season, and we've touched on it, you're looking for what your identity is going to be. Every single team starts the year with, what's the personality of our team? What's important to us? You know, when it comes towards the end of the season and we need to win a game, like, what are we going to lean on? Well, the Philly, what they lean on is their defense, and they lean on their offensive line and their running back. And that's what won them the game today. And you can look at some of the other, you know, metrics when it comes to, you know, reasons why teams win and why teams lose. Well, the Eagles, they got 2 fumbles, right? And the Rams coughed it up twice. And, you know, the Philly, they made them pay for it. But ultimately, this is going to be it's always going to be a Saquon team. The last 2 times, if you count up all the yardage that they played the Rams, he has a 525 yards rushing.
2 games.
In 2 games. And not to mention the big impact plays, which are usually 20 yards or more. He's into 60-plus territory, which has got to be some sort of NFL record.
Yeah. You know, I sit here, I try and track the turning point of a game, and usually we can identify one. I've got an A.J. Brown drop there in the second quarter. I've got a Kyren Williams fumble. I've got a Stafford fumble. We got 2 great holds equaling 6 points by Jake Elliott, and then the long run by Saquon Barkley. This game back and forth, and so much can be said about L.A. and the job that they did, but how did the weather affect what we saw? Because it was a positive game script and a lead for Philadelphia when that snow started to come down. How important was it to be the team out in front at that point?
It was huge because it was very, very difficult in terms of footing, in terms of seeing as well. If you guys have ever been in any type of snowstorm or anything like that, your vision is not as clear. So for Philly, defensively, they understood what they were going to get when they had a nice lead. Pass, pass, pass. So you got an opportunity as pass rushers to peel your ears back and just kind of forget about the run and rush the passer, not to mention short-handed receivers. Puka Nacua. How many times have we seen Puka drop out routes? Never. But because of the weather, it became an issue. When you look at some of the mishaps when it comes to fumbles, these are things that played a big part into Philly being able to do what they did today. And you talk about the common theme in playoff football, Joe. We sat up here on the same desk and we talked about what we thought we would see. The same can be said today. The common theme for me was doing what? Protecting who? Who must you protect? Wilson, the football. You have to handle Wilson like it's a newborn baby. You have to protect it because when you give Wilson away in playoff football, you're going to be sitting home the next week. And that was the telling sign because the Rams, they fought. They fought for 4 quarters, but 2 fumbles gave the Eagles the opportunity to do what they did today, which is win the ball game. And the same can be said for the Detroit Lions as well. I'm sorry, Detroit fans, you caught a stray, but if you protect the football, you might have been in a better situation than currently you're sitting in.
The 3, we talk about indicators, win and loss indicators. It's turnover battle, it's third down efficiency, and it's red zone. And just looking at the highlights right there, I mean, there are so many near misses for the Rams as far as the Stafford handoff that left his hand. Williams coughing it up like just while he's running, not to mention the ones that they actually lost. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. as far as just how bad of a position that they put themselves into. And I would give them credit with all the bad things that happened. But this is the worst type of environment for the Rams.
Yeah.
They're not used to it. They don't like it. But they were thriving with terrible, terrible weather.
I'm interested in your guys' point of view on this because it's sort of an amalgamation of those two things you just said, the mistakes that were made and what the Lions did a day ago. Stay with me here because it feels like the Lions are sitting there all offseason now and saying, man, this was the year we could have done it. Does it feel like L.A. squeezed everything they could out of this season, man?
No question. Joe.
After that start?
Yeah, 1-4, and I was singing the praises about this team because of Sean McVay. But for them to be 1-4 at one point in time in this season, you missed both pass catchers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. You look at the injuries on the offensive line, dealing with new players on the defensive front, and found a way to not only win your division, but also get into the playoffs and make some noise. I mean, this is a team that really showed in terms of coaching and just being prepared and executing, you can do a lot. And I can tell you this much, if you're going to get the Los Angeles Rams, this was the year to do so. Because Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Young, Turner, they're not going anywhere. And get this, it's not like the old Rams where they just throw away first-round picks. They use draft picks now, right? They use them now. And they hit Les Snead. When you talk about one of the more great serviceable GMs in the National Football League, Brad Holmes and Les Snead, they're doing a phenomenal job. Howie is also with Philly. But when you look at this team and kind of out-kicking their coverage, Christian, they have no reason to hang their head low. Unfortunately, they were a bit overmatched, but they fought, they were prepared, and the future is extremely bright for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those picks because there was a time that they were willing to do everything and anything to acquire enough talent so they can win a Super Bowl. And even while they were asset deficient when it comes to draft picks, they were still competing 500, one game above 500. Even though they weren't making the playoffs, they were still competing, which tells me that this coach, Sean McVay, absolutely has the pulse of his team.
Yes.
So when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers, you're on notice. When it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, you're on notice. Seattle Seahawks, you're on notice.
Everyone is.
That division is on point with some of the best in the league.
The one thing I will say, Matthew Stafford 1 year older after this game. We'll see how much runway there is left there, but played at a high level in this game and throughout this season. Just got to keep that, the play 60 arm?
Play 60 arm, keep it warmed up,
Got to
Matty.
keep that thing fresh. Let's get back on Philly here as they will move on to host the NFC title game. Full setup coming on that matchup here in just a bit. But when you look at what they were able to accomplish in this game through what they went through as well, Quinyon Mitchell dinged in this game, was lost. You saw Jalen Hurts, the knee got rolled up under. He was limited from that point on. When you look at them all season long, we've been saying this is the thing they have to clean up to be that. What is the thing they have to clean up between now and next week?
The passing game. The passing game. For some reason, there's a disconnect in the passing game in terms of efficient and just consistency. Because we can rave about Saquon Barkley, left and right, deserving so. But at some point in time, you have to provide a sense of balance in this offense. And today, I mean, pedestrian-like numbers once again from Jalen Hurts. 128 yards through the air. And even before he got rolled up, he was struggling, Joe. So something about this passing game that's not connected. He got outplayed by Matthew Stafford. Unfortunately for Matthew Stafford, he lost in the biggest stat, which is win, right? He didn't win. But outside of that, Matthew Stafford outperformed Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has to find a way to get things going. And then he has to deal with the knee element because he got rolled up a little bit. We don't know exactly the health going into this matchup against the Washington Commanders. But I can tell you this much, Christian and Joe. If you're playing against the Commanders right now in playoff football, you got to score north of 30 because their offense, they don't punt the football. They have one of the best punters in the National Football League because his leg is extremely fresh because they're super consistent.
That's right.
Yes. So if you talk about having a clear day in terms of weather and just being frigid, the Commanders can score points. So that's the one thing I think, Joe, they have to find a way to clean up a little bit, just to balance the passing game.
Yeah, I would find a way to somehow quickly reconnect if I'm not Saquon Barkley, if I'm Jalen Hurts with my receivers. I would find a way. Maybe it's a dinner. Maybe it's, listen, let's put the past behind us. There's something going on. A.J. Brown did not come up.
Do a book club.
Maybe it's a book club. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, the Tao of Pooh. I have no idea.
You got to get together.
But they do need to get together because at some point in time, now it's going to be the Washington Commanders, they're going to say, okay, anybody but Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Anyone but Saquon Barkley. We'll take our chances with the receivers and Jalen Hurts, but Saquon Barkley's not going to run for over 200 yards.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we can't do. So they got to know that they are going to have to find a way to contribute and produce something, because the Commanders have got to commit to stopping one guy, and that's Saquon Barkley.
Bobby Wagner, get your sleep. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
They're going to have to find a way to slow down that force that is Saquon. It is time now for Unsung Heroes, presented by Tylenol, Care Without Limits. Christian, when you take a look at somebody here, surface level, we can point to our heroes in this game, but someone who we're not going to talk about enough is who?
Well, it's the big, ugly guys. It's the offensive linemen that – now, the Philadelphia Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League, and you can obviously tell, just look at Saquon Barkley. But these are the guys that when it matters most, they're getting a hat on a hat, and they're not freaking out. They're not panicking. Cam Jurgens, the center who's replacing a center, that 78-yard run, number 51 on your screen, number 1 in your heart, probably had one of the better blocks to free Saquon Barkley up. So my unsung hero is the entire Philadelphia Eagles offensive line.
Well, you're talking about the big uglies on the offensive line. I go with another big fella, but he's not as ugly. That's Jalen Carter. He's my unsung hero, and here's why. You look at in a moment in this ball game, guys, where the Rams were fighting back. They got a safety. They're only down 1 point. 16-15 was the score. Kyren Williams running counter play. Jalen Carter came with the ultimate punch out. Forced a fumble. They recovered it. That was huge, because you look at the momentum. The Rams snatched all the momentum away from Philly. The crowd was a bit nervous, but because of the play that Jalen Carter made, they were able to turn that turnover into 3 points, which led to another turnover. So that was the ripple effect for the Philadelphia Eagles and being able to find a way to win this ball game and just allow Saquon Barkley to be the ultimate closer. His day, 5 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, 1 major forced fumble that I mentioned in a time where the game was 16-15. That was huge. Jalen Carter, you are the guy.
I don't get a vote, but I'm making one as a former holder. Shout out to the holder.
Used to be a holder?
Braden Mann, yeah, put that thing down.
Wow, I didn't know
You didn't
that.
have to worry about
That's
it.
impressive.
Laces out?
Rain, sleet, snow, laces out, Finkel, Einhorn, the whole thing. A couple big holes there by Braden Mann that led to 6 points.
Yeah, they had to clean the grass. And you can't use a towel. I love that rule, by the way, NFL. Make them do it with their hands and their feet.
You know we
Great
like to
job.
get granular here on
No
HQ,
question.
fellas. Great analysis as always. So we take a look at what has been consistency for those birds. You know, they like to make you think in Philly, the sky's fallen sometimes. How about the most trips to Title Sunday in the NFC in the last 25 years?